Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Soccer Hub Talks. As you know, Soccer Hub is a world leader online educational platform for soccer experts, such as coaches, scouts, analysts, and for all the ones that wish to learn more about the different aspects of the game. Soccer Hub is currently celebrating its 4th anniversary, so please visit our page and get to know more about our courses, as all of them are now with 50% discount to celebrate our anniversary. Don't miss this opportunity, obviously. So before we start, please introduce some information about yourselves in the chat box and click the like button to check if the audio and the video is okay. So remember, Football Manager, the video game, to worldwide scouting, and to talk about it, we have with us José Chieira. José has an impressive career in football, especially more in scouting, working for Sports Interactive for 22 years. And are you sure, José, 22 years, how is that possible? You look so young. And you must be started very, very early. But we are going to talk about it. And also working for clubs such as Sporting Club Portugal, or known as Sporting Lisbon, although it's not the correct name. The correct name is Sporting Club Portugal. Vitória Football Club, that is also called Vitória Setúbal, but it's Vitória Football Club, Académica de Coimbra, or better, Associação Académica de Coimbra, Panathinaikos FC, and also FC Porto. But for sure, José will share with us his brilliant past in football. So welcome, José, and thanks for accepting the invitation in such a kind way and being open since the beginning to share your knowledge. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Nuno. Thank you. And congrats for you guys at Soccer Hub. Been doing a great job within the community by sharing. And I just hope to be part of this sharing, networking, whatever. I'm just glad to answer all the questions and try to explain or talk about football anyway.
Yeah, sure. That's great from you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It's a big pleasure, especially for me, and I'll tell you why, José. Before we start, do you know that you are responsible for many sleepless nights, not studying for school as much as supposed, for many mothers being upset with their children, and even for some divorces, for sure. In my case, definitely some of the first ones, as my passion for scouting started in 92. Can share with you. You started, I believe, in 94.
Yes.
It was at the time Championship Manager Italy. So, and there was also the English version. And I started playing the Italian one and spending many, many hours of my life playing the game, editing the players, doing everything I could, so I...
Just like myself, I did the same, yeah.
Yeah, like yourself, yeah. So, but I didn't know, it's interesting to know that someone we are both Portuguese, that someone was actually working brilliantly to provide that information so I could play the game. So that's fantastic. So despite all these nights without sleeping and everything, and my parents being upset, a big thanks to you, because your contribution to allow me to be a scout in these days, because my passion started in there. So thanks for that.
Good to know.
So let's start. José, can you please tell us a bit more about your journey so far and how it all started, including joining Sports Interactive 22 years ago?
Okay. By the time that Sports Interactive as a company did not even exist, these guys were printing themselves like a bunch of guys producing Championship Manager. Okay, there was no company whatsoever. So they have this website by the time, and I, just like yourself, was obviously an hardcore fan of the game. And I registered myself at their website. So at some point they called me and they asked me if I wanted to do like a test, just by researching, getting some data, some information from Recruitment.
Yeah.
And that was the start, I kind of passed the test, I guess. So it all started at that point, 1994. Yes, a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
By that time, I was in university. I'm graduating in economics at Católica. I was in Lisbon.
Okay.
Not many people had internet. Actually, most of the people use internet at university.
Yeah.
I had it at home, luckily, and so it was also a good condition actually to be able to start with this job.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's great. That's a fantastic story. So, and did you know anything about scouting and at the time, or it was hard to obtain information about the players? How it was?
Looking back right now to this time, it's really it's been an unbelievable story of I wouldn't say success. It's a case study, not only the games industry but also in scouting. But it turned out that the work being done for Championship Manager by that time and then changed the name to Football Manager, it was really built on something that looked like even nowadays a scouting department. Okay, so by the time, obviously, I was an hardcore fan. I played when I was 11, 12 at the academic. It was a very strange presence of mine there at the club because I would not have the time. My mother would not allow me to actually go to training sessions. I was playing also basketball, having English and French courses outside the high school. It was, I didn't have the time. So what happened? I left. I was kind of frustrated not to be playing football. I had a lot of friends there, and in the end, I just kept, going to the matches and providing feedback to them because when you are kids, you are used to see others playing, to play with them, whatever. So this was always there: the scouting, the assessment, the feedback, whatever. So when I got to this time in 1994, I was obviously I never stopped to attending football matches, of course. And by that time, I was living quite nearby to the Alvalade Stadium. So I used to go there, even to attend the training sessions. I remember Schmeichel training outside the ground. It's just all those times. I was attending this as a fan. So when this all started, obviously I had this usually hardcore fan background, but also the guys from England, from Championship Manager, provided me the tools to actually put on place specific tasks. And so we will have this huge database, and we'd have to provide information on clubs, grounds, referees, coaches, players from different levels. So as a growing process, I had to start building on my own network because we are expanding so quickly with so many people that we, and I always say we because this is always a teamwork, I was having and getting more and more help. One of my first helpers was Milheiro, you must know from television. The guy, already by the time, was kind of my age, similar. You already have a lot of information from all the clubs in second league, other leagues, So like just having help from all these guys, it was a fantastic growing process also for database and for my own process. Okay. So looking back again to this time, realize that there was a scouting department on place. This is very interesting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm delighted listening you because it reminds me also the old times, and to understand how come 22 years ago, there was, like you said, a scouting department, and in these days, 22 years after, some clubs they don't have scouting departments. How is it possible? so yeah.
I would say it's cultural. The thing is, that's pretty. These guys who were producing Championship Manager, who created the brand, who created the product, were programming the game. They had this vision of, just working in football, and this is a way that in their minds they would find just normal to explore something in the football industry with the game. Yeah. So they looked at the game as a football club eventually. So I would say this is cultural. They were willing to actually know the market, get more people on board, and with this vision, they were able to find right people to feed this process.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and they give opportunity to people like you also to start in scouting. For sure, there are others that they keep in scouting, and it's a very good school. And at the time there was not much. Probably in England there was scouts, but not in many countries. So the football manager, but he's also Championship Manager / football manager because it changed. Like you said, the database is very complete, always been complete, and detailed, and has great filters. In my opinion, you can filter the players very well by every single skill that you wish. And there are not many tools actually in scouting. that are so complete, like in the game. I can tell
No,
you.
database is been growing a lot, but since day zero, the thing is, with all the details they have in database, all these traits, these skills, eventual actions for even the players, for example,
Yeah,
it's also worked for me as a guideline how to assess a player or a coach. So since the beginning, we have this intensive course based on this database, on these different tasks for this job of database for the computer game. But in the end, there was a whole process, and also working as a guideline for people like me and my colleagues all over the world.
that's true. That's true. And like I was saying, the filters are great. Everything, like, it's built like a scouting department completely. And I was gonna ask you. So, do you think that during this period of 22 years and still now, do you think that many clubs were using the game actually to recruit players, or at least to go observe some players? We all remember, like, one example, Kennedy Bakircioglu. We all remember him, and I'm even trying to interview him. So, guys, if you want to bring some help, go to his social media. Just put there something on his profile to go to come to Soccer Hub, because I was trying to contact him, but because it will be an example, because I believe he was hired based on at least Ajax. I think they knew him because of the game. Do you think that still happens, or it was happening a lot? Do you know more cases like that?
What I can tell you is my experience. So after all these years, it's that I am sure that I would say every club at some point, they like to have another source of information. Okay, this is not okay. Let's try to build some organization to the process. You can start with information. Before you have a reference, then we have information. You get to this knowledge level. Okay, and the clubs obviously like to have another source of reference and eventually of information. So in the end, even if they say no, there is a tool of some credibility was being brought along the years where they can eventually reference players and get some information on them. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, I of course passed with many people and all my friends. They're working for clubs. And of course, I use CM, FM. Of course, everybody does it, even when they say no.
Yeah. So everybody does. In the end of the day, I was pretty much sure, because of course you have, like, because I believe you send scouts anyway. They do the first filter is done by the scouts, by Football Manager scouts. So the information that is there, it's somehow is very valuable, and then you can check the player, obviously. So can you share with us a bit about your role that you had in there, and also the dynamics, more about the dynamics that in obtaining that kind of information and giving the ratings, for example, to the players. Basically,
Yes.
the way that the scouting process was made to be accurate.
Okay, we working pyramidal. Okay, that's I was at the top as a scouting coordinator and researcher, whatever you can call it, and then with assistants, they're also having their own assistant up to the informants and other people on the ground. Okay, so what happened is that we set like this level of knowledge eventually, also because of the logistics, while managing all this data and information was very limited because the database was not online. So you can imagine only one person at a time could edit the database. That was a nightmare. Okay, a nightmare. That only changed, I guess, like 3-4 years ago. For different reasons, the company was not willing to actually put it online. So what happened is that we have to control everybody. It was not very easy, even if they have like this sort of mini editors that before you put edited data from them to the main database. But at the same time, we have to see yourself because you have to minimize the risk. So in the end, I cover the first league always. Second league, most of it I will know also pretty well. And to the others divisions below. And at the later stage of the youth setups from under 19 and 17, we had really all these networks spread around the country. And the good thing, I don't know if it's good, but I think it was, in the end, it was a very positive thing for the process. There was no money involved, okay? These guys were working as a passion, as a fans of the game. They're willing to provide, willing to be part of it. And at the end of the year, the best ones, the ones who I thought, okay, we'll really deserves some congratulations. So you get this copy of the game. So there was no strange interest, and because the process was very clear, were very pure, if you say so. So it's just a normal scouting department working to a different target other than in real life. Okay, it's a computer game. And in the end, dynamics were pretty much the same. Okay, and in the end, okay, you make the game as real as possible. Eventually, as a simulator and not a game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Also another issue that then came years later was localization. I had to translate or get people to translate the game, and that was also very important for the growing of the game. And because the game was just everywhere, it was worldwide phenomenon. This is a case study, just anywhere. And so this type of the localization with Italian, Spanish, other language also helped to call more people to the process. Okay, so I was having like immigrants in Switzerland who were willing to provide the information about Portuguese players playing new setups in Switzerland. For instance, this is an example. So this whole networking, all of a sudden, was growing into a huge network.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and congratulations for that. For sure, one person only editing it wasn't easy, for sure.
No, so it was a nightmare.
We have here a question from Marley is asking actually if she can ask a question at the end. You can ask anytime. Feel free, guys. Feel free to ask the questions, and José is here, and just ask him all the questions you have. I have many, so you guys for sure also have. So feel free to ask. Also, can you tell us a bit more how it came the first invitation for you to work in a club, and the difference between scouting, working in a club and working for Sports Interactive at the time?
Yeah. Okay. By that time, I was working as a scout. Okay, so I was attending the matches just everywhere I could, and I got to meet and to cross my pathways and got some good relations, some close friendships with some of the scouts. And at some point, I got to meet these guys from Sporting, the youth scouting, the guys who have discovered like Hugo Viana and other players. So at the time, I was just puzzled how they actually work, how they were organized, the procedures, how did their reports, and everything was done there. And so the thing was like more as a partnership. It's like to call this, because I could provide the process, obviously also some huge networking, and they will provide me this know-how, this school of traditional scouting, getting along with the families, approaching the players, telling me about small details, how they will assess the player. And these were like fantastic times for me. I felt like going to high school again, because for me it was a huge learning process, and at the same time able to provide something for their own process. And I remember Aurelio Pereira, the big reference also for me for scouting. He will talk to me, and with his pencil on his hand, a lot of small papers, and I was thinking, this guy is right, like this reference, he's just getting the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Figo, or whatever. And the process is kind of very precarious. They need, to organize themselves. So, this was my first interaction with a club. So this was like this. It's very, 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 I miss these times because it's very pure, or, it's very, very, very nice.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. We have
also just to finish this about Sporting, my early time scouting, there was the scout, Major José Santos, became very close to me, older than me, of course. So I just go with him from Lisbon to Matosinhos into Chaves, just driving in the rain or five hours the same day, going up and down, and we just discussing football all the time. We were going to there to check the players, to see them in action, then talking to the families and checking on other clubs who might be interested in the same player. All these dynamics. It was fantastic.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine, and to have the chance to share also with that people, like very good mentors that you had, for sure.
Yes, yes. Of course, then you get to understand also this process. there is a difference between the real life and the computer game. Okay,
Yeah.
obviously the computer game, it's fine, it's fun, it's huge, it's became like something big, worldwide, whatever. But in the end, it's not real life. It can be a simulator if you want. It's not real life. Okay, so the thing about working for a club and going to the other side, if it decides the other side, is getting like to see how the process could lead to something growing there. Okay, just really filtering out the best players, how to work with players, why were they special, how to bring them to the club, how to coach them, how to nurture them, be their fathers, their mothers, whatever. So this is real life. This was what called me the attention, that I really would like to be also on the club side.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like you said, it's different because in the computer game, in Championship Manager, you make an offer, a bid for the player, and it's not your money that goes from the pocket.
Sure.
Responsibility not much. Or if you hire a kid, it's not, you don't need to talk to his
or you
parents.
start a new game and then everything is new. So in real life there is no reboot, so you have to feel the consequences, and at the same time you have to be responsible for the process, to understand what's going on there and make your own decisions. And you know that you have to be responsible and build a competent process so that everything goes well, because we're talking about real lives there.
Yeah, for sure. So we have here a great message from Michael. Say about Kennedy Bakasiari. So actually someone is already working like in Football Manager for the community. So to try to help to get Kennedy here. He's a fellow Swede. I might have someone that in my network who knows him. I'll do the best to connect you guys. So please do, Michael, and thanks for your message. That will be brilliant, because we can also listen the other side of a player that was hired also, or at least spotted from the company. And we also have here a question, but I think anybody who had contact in Peru to work there as a scout. So if someone has any contact, can be in touch. So let's keep going. So when you started to work in a club environment, do you think that the fact that you were coming from a video game, company, was an handicap to be accepted inside professional football structure, and for people to understand the value that you were bringing, or you didn't feel it?
Well, I thought about it, but in the end of the day, if you put your own work and you already have this track record of concrete tasks and proofs from the real thing, from the real life, you are already ready to bring your own added value to the process in real life. So in the end, and when I got facilitation to join the scouting department, this professional scouting department in Vitória de Setúbal, with Rebelo, he wanted also my networking and my knowledge, my know-how about not only about the logistics side, organizational side, but also about the technical side of the game. Because I had the experience, and you like it or not, you've been there at the stadiums, at the grounds, seeing a lot of players, seeing a lot of good players, trying to understand why this one is better than the other, the outstanding traits, how they might evolve or not. So you were into football. You just needed a place to actually apply all this knowledge. You might came from a different background, and I even was not a footballer. Okay, I was this gradation on economics, but in the end, for me, it all makes sense. And then if you put your work, you really, you communicate with the people, they understand what you can bring to the process. And that happened for the first time for me, not only at Sporting, but then when I got the invitation also to join the professional scouting department at Vitória de Setúbal.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. So we have here the question from Marla. As an aspiring scout, how to start setting up your network? What is important in the beginning? If you have an answer for it, of course, it's not easy, but
it's not easy, there's not this golden answer. Actually, many people reach out for me about this, with these specific questions, how to start, how to take off. I'd say that most important, you have to be ready to work, and try to get in some context where this work actually within the scouting is is considered an investment and not an expenses. Otherwise, you'll always have problems, you'll always have barriers. Of course, this is not easy, but it's a start. Try to be available to work, just to go anywhere, and then the good things will happen. Okay, because you'll get to know people from that club, from the other club, eventually a father, whatever. So your connection will grow. If you put our own work, your passion, you'll be able to build on something.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the best way. Honestly, I agree completely with you. We have here. I hope this helps you, Marlon, and I hope you can reach your dream. So we also have here a question from Hyman. What is the first step to become an official scout, either for a club or in general? I'll say that I'll recommend you. I can tell for you, José, if you don't mind. Go to Soccer Hub. I have a free course in there. It's myself even giving the course how to become a soccer scout, and can give you some useful tips that you can use it. So I think it's easier. And we have here a question. What's the best club to send your CV to? I mean, outside in your country. Well, this one is sent to all of the ones that you believe that want, and just keep trying. So there is no secret, no. Just want to. So send to the ones that probably have a scouting department. So you also have or not. Yeah, or you can try to start to build a scouting department. That's true. I actually did that. That's interesting, because I was telling without thinking, but it's true. Maybe you can approach a club and saying that you can work for them, even if you don't work, if you don't get in return any money in the beginning, for example.
Sure.
So you can get some experience, and you just want to provide them to either. I started like that. So it's
no, for sure. You have to invest yourself. At Vitória Setúbal, I was getting nothing except for the expenses.
Yeah,
so, exactly. But I'm willing to do it because I also investing in this work, So, again, this is a partnership. You just have to manage the circumstances. If you are able to actually look at this as investment without having this salary or whatever, okay, just do it. It's a fantastic start.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the best start. We are not here to talk about me; it's about you. But actually, I started like that also. So it's interesting.
Yes, for sure.
You also had an experience as a sports director, at Academic.
Yes.
And I believe you were the youngest sports director at the time. Yeah. So do you believe that your experience as a scout, either for Sports Interactive and club, especially the one from Sports Interactive, where you've been, and we are here to talk also about that, also helped in that role of sports director?
Well, the trend right now in the market is like this. For the last 10 years, the guys were into scouting, and are obviously comfortable with the market. And one of the most relevant issues for a sports director is the knowledge of the market. So obviously, it's an added value if you have this track record and experience at the market, looking at the market. So you are more prepared eventually than other profiles. So when I got to Academic, it's funny, because when I was at Vitória Setúbal, okay, for the first time, I was working in a professional environment. The department was created by Jorge Jesus the year before, so we took Joaquim Rebelo. It was his former player at Estrela Amadora.
Yeah, it is now. And the football
association, yes, professional association, yes.
Yeah.
And so he told me, look, we're kind of exploring, because it's brand new. This is the vision from Jorge Jesus. By that time it was really a vision. He was a visionary by that time, because not many clubs will have the scouting department. But then when I got to Vitória Setúbal, I was doing not only the team scouting, the player scouting, but also the open scouting.
Okay.
So that also, again, it gave me a lot of language, of knowledge to actually close the circle on everything about scouting, because I would do the team analysis, prepare the next matches, and also the players. So I was just traveling mostly from the south, but I was covering the center and the south. And the dynamics were very interesting, because, okay, you got to know the clubs from Premier League with the players there, and also scouting the players from other leagues. So all of a sudden, and before the end of the season, I got three offers from Premier League clubs, where no scouting department, nothing, zero. So they trying to get someone who could have an idea, a fault to actually take off right there.
Yeah.
And that's why I went to Académica, because it was my hometown. I left city when I was 16, when I got to university in Lisbon. But in the end of the day, I was living in Lisbon. In the end of the day, I was, okay, it's my own club, my hometown club. And so I'm a fan of the club, of course. So let's try and do something. So the department was zero. There was no scouting at all. Okay. And after 6 months, the board, the president, the vice presidents, they made me sports director. They obliged me to become sports director. No, really, honestly. And this is a premiership. This is serious. And the thing is, I was graduating in economics. The concepts I had there, basic management. The structure there was not many people, but people willing to help this situation. The budget was not so big, and they were trying to call players with I would say with higher standard. But there was a problem also because the club was in second division, and they created this bad naming of not paying on time or not paying at all. Okay, so it was not very easy. But in the end, okay, they trust me. They call me for the task. And it was fantastic because it all went as a fairy tale. In the last week, in the last match, we got a survival. So it was just fantastic. And of course, again, knowing the market, knowing the teams, knowing the dynamics of the industry, it was making me an easier task to actually manage the squad, only the main squad. Okay. But the thing, it was like I told them at the end of the season, look, this is very nice, but I'm too young. I'm willing to learn from someone. If you can bring someone more experienced, it will be fantastic for all of us. Because, we cannot play with it. This is real thing. This is real thing. And so they hired António Simões, the former player of Benfica.
Yeah.
You know him from '66, this big, huge team.
We already had the chance to have him in here with us. Yeah.
Fantastic guy.
Yeah.
It was treating me like his grandchildren. So we had this very close relationship with him. Yeah. Again, it was a learning process for me. It was fantastic. Every day to talk with him, and he loves to share. It was fantastic. He loves to share.
Yes.
So it was just another learning process for me. That was fantastic. But again, I believe that scouting was like too valuable for the club to ignore it, and was losing touch. So I always kept my eyes on the scouting, trying to coordinate it and to be hands-on on the other things, but keeping the scouting in mind because it was like the survival kit for the club. Yeah. In the end, it worked very well because before Antonio arrived, when I was alone there, we signed a player from Suwon, from Korea, Marcel, and we were desperate in December to get an extra quality for the team. Obviously, we were struggling, hard time there. So in the end, someone has suggested his name to the president. It was a name I knew because he was one of the top scorers in Brazil Serie A. He was playing the Olympic team, national team, with the same age of Daniel Alves. Actually, they're very, very close, very good friends. But then he was bought and sold to play in Korea. Yeah. So when the name came, 6 months or something after I tried to understand the situation of the player before you went to Korea, I told my president, look, I know we are not used to this type of investment, but we have to trust. We have to trust our process because we need this profile to actually come and make the difference. This is on December. So myself, I traveled to Korea. I was there like 10 days. And the funny thing is when I got there, we made an offer when I was still in Coimbra. When I got there, when I landed there at the club, when I go to the first meeting to discuss matters with the general manager at the club, the last offer done by email, it was lower. So the general manager at the club was crazy. And they said, no, I don't want to talk with you. We're not serious. Okay, so I had to wait 6 days at the hotel until he finally got an improved offer from the club, so that we are able then sort it out. And the good thing with all this, we got an investor to actually help us to trust our process and to get the player. We got the player, we got the survival, and 1 year after, we got him for 1.2, I think, 70%. And then we sold him 1 year after to Benfica for 3.5.
I remember, yeah.
And so you see, okay, this works. This process works. We have to trust this. And this was also the start for me as an assurance that we have to trust your process. You may not be mature enough to understand everything, to know everything, because also life is a learning process. But in the end, that worked. And everybody at the club was obviously happy. This was very, very interesting.
That's an amazing story. Thank you all. Thanks a lot for sharing it. I didn't know it, and it's fantastic from you that you gave a step. So you were more concerned about the success of the club than about yourself, because you knew that they knew someone more experienced for the sports director position, and you were doing your job as a scout. So many others will just wanted to take the place, to stay there, to have the reputation, but that's something fantastic that you did in the end, and you learned even more. And
yes.
That
if you balance between egos and what you gain for not having these egos, and so that you can feed your own process. But okay, you cannot approach this as an individual sport. Football is a team sport, and again, every department should approach this also as a teamwork. It has to be like this,
Yeah, that was the ideal world, and the things will be much better for many clubs, for sure.
Yes.
So yeah. So as I mentioned above, you have a wide experience in several different clubs in Portugal and abroad. How do you see scouting today compared to when you started? And in your opinion, which are the countries that invest more in scouting? That can be an example also in terms of the development of scouting and the importance of scouting in a club structure.
I think, Nuno, you have to look at scouting dynamics, industry, whatever, as before the big data and after the big data. And this is scouting 3.0, because the scouting 2.0 actually has changed when Wirescout and Instat, before Wirescout, they came up with these video libraries. Okay, so when I was in Panathinaikos, some tools started to actually entering the football world, but they were associated to scouting, but more in the as a management tool. Okay, they will help you to actually manage the department, your square, the contracts, also the scouting with the reporting, everything. I brought Scout 7, which was an English company, to Panathinaikos, and when I left to Porto at the same time, by coincidence, I was in Sevilla, because I got there just to understand with Monchi, the first time I was there, to understand how they would work with the football department, scouting department. So I got this contact, and they allowed me to actually meet them and get to know the process there at Sevilla. And at the same time in the meeting there, they have this huge big black box, and I asked them, look, what is this? I mean, it's no, because it was a scouting room. What is it? No, this brand new Italian company, they offer this service because I tried this out. So what is it? No, this is an online video library. What do you mean? I mean, you can choose different competitions, different matches, or different players, and they have like these huge matches online. You can check at any time. And I realized the world of scouting have changed, And by the time, firstly, I should have invented this. I had this in my mind for years. I should have invented this business. But then you realize that as a scouting context in organization dynamics, and that will be changing the approach, anything. You could do just anything, because you could see almost any player in the world at one click, very quickly. So what was an advantage for the clubs who had the resources to actually travel and watch the players, see the players on location, that online tool came like a democratic tool, democratizing all the process, because any club, since you could invest something in Y-Scout, like Academica, you'll be able to scout and to get from reference to information, eventually to knowledge, in a much more quicker and comfortable way. So was like the brand new page of scouting, okay? That allowed a lot of clubs from different markets to actually become proactive in the market, not just reacting, waiting for the traditional DVD or VHS, from my time, VHS, from the agents, the families of the players, a friend of a friend, just, and then you got these crazy videos. And from Brazil, there were videos where like they would speed up, the video. So they all seemed the players were very quick, the game was very quick, So that all ended. And with this tool, it came the second age of the scouting, okay? And then the third age is the big data, because the big data brought this expertise to this context, and now all the clubs which are willing to actually, which are looking for again an added value, a plus to come up above the competition, they are investing a lot in the big data. So in the end, okay, right now you have a lot of clubs from different markets actually promoting very good scouting work. They're getting to this knowledge level in the different market, different continents. They are able now to make more informed choices. Okay, and they have got a strong position in the market while dealing, because they have more options. If they're looking for a profile, if they know more options, their position in the market is stronger. And so this is becoming very interesting in these dynamics. Of course, you can identify the ones who are approaching the market scouting oriented, big data oriented, or nothing oriented. You can now understand at the world market who is doing what. Okay.
Sorry. No. That's fantastic. It's fantastic, your vision, and explaining to everybody how other things developed all these years. We've been since the beginning of the process of scouting, and that's true now. Big data. Everybody talks about big data, but do you believe that it will be always necessary to validate the player, to be there live? Do you think in the first step you should watch a video? Do you think that you should check the analytics of the player? How do you believe that the process should be done?
Well, from my experience, actually, it just worked out for me all the ways I've mentioned, really, honestly. So, also because I come from the times where you only could have this traditional scouting. You have to go there. Otherwise, you will not know the player. Okay? And if the club were willing to actually get some extra talent, under some conditions that would be able to pay, you had to go there. Okay? You had to get there first. Then, with the video scouting, like I told you, it became more difficult for the clubs to position themselves in the market, because everything was balanced. Okay? So, in the end, if we bring an extra element like the big data and the analytics, again, it can bring you an added value. But there's nothing, and this is my first approach if you're talking with the big data, you can call the big data as an expertise, but it's not decisive, okay? You can just, look at a player for whatever reason, you're watching a match and you like one player, and then you get to know more about the player. It's much easier and quicker now to get more about the player. Or you can just wait for someone using the big data on that competition or on a player, and you get information and then you check the player. Or then you go someone got the reference and you go and check like the player. Anything can happen. The different approaches may work. You just have to organize the process and make sure you are maximizing your resources, not wasting time, not wasting money.
I completely agree with you. And do you think also because the big data and all this part came a lot from American sports, and especially after the book and the film Moneyball? And do you think in football it's harder in a way because it's not so linear what the player does? And also because obviously you can take a player from a context that he plays in a certain kind of team, in a certain game system, and maybe you bring to your team, he doesn't play in the same style, is completely different. While in baseball, the players, there are no tactics. What they do is much more linear. Do you think also football is learning how to bring together all these parts, the big data, the video, and also the live scouting?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I just think the big data, you have to be, no, I wouldn't say careful. I'll just say smart how to use it. Okay. There are different ways of using big data. Okay. Yeah. First of all, like I told you before, I look at big data. It's my experience, my process as an expertise. You cannot ignore the big data. Okay. Yeah. The thing is, starting from the beginning, okay, the big data, the reason why the big data got bigger and bigger is because of the new money coming to football. If you're an investor, I'm sure the investor, the guy who pays for all of this, needs to know what's the secret of this money. Where this money is, or is it spent? Is there performance? Who is performing, not performing? And this big data, allows you to makes it more concrete because it can put you in a number where the money is, if the money is well spent or not. Put it like this, okay? So this helped a lot. This new vague of investors, the new money now is in the football industry. This is very good for them, but it's not everything. It's far from everything. You have to be very careful using the big data. Just remember the words of Guardiola last week. He was very clear about it, and I agree with him 100%. Okay, how can the big data tell me that my players are not ready to play my system? Or put it in other words, the big data will not tell you if Bernardo Silva can play with the third man or the fourth man like they play the playing system in Manchester City. You understand?
Yeah, that's true. That's why I was asking also, not because of Guardiola said that, but for instance, I had this discussion with some people that is like, let's say, for example, a right back, for example. And when big data started and all the analytics and everything, even on the TV, you could check how many kilometers the player was running or not. And that information, it can be irrelevant. It can be important or irrelevant. For example, let's say a right back. Maybe he's not running so much because the instruction of his coach is to not to go so many times to attack, for example. And you cannot compare directly to another system where the players, for example, in CBT, the fullbacks, they go constantly up and down. So there are things that you can take, you need to know where to take. The thing is, I believe in football, is that there are two parts, it's divided. The people that knows about analytics and the ones that knows about football. It's rare the people that knows about both and put them together. I think that's the value there. So I don't know if you agree or not.
Yeah, no, that's important, Nuno, exactly, because when I came to Sporting, when I signed for Sporting, one of the things I discussed with the president when I was first approached, look, we don't have the same results of the other big clubs. This is a fact. Okay, this is a fact. So we have to find shortcuts to actually get it quicker and better. This is the situation. And from day zero, with this idea of creating this big data department, I was looking for a profile. When I mean a profile for the professional we should be hiring, not a nerd, not a guy from Laser like Opta was hiring. No, a guy from football, at least with a football background of qualification, whatever, but then with next knowledge on data. And we finally got this guy, fantastic professional. Really, we took some time, but we got the right guy to do the job. A Portuguese guy who actually lived nearby the stadium, but he graduated in Madrid, then he went to Real Madrid, then we decided to go to China, and then he was maybe eventually thinking about coming back to Portugal. Then, so all things went well. And that's why we were able to find the right profile, the right guy to bring the big data to the club. And that was a learning process for everybody there because we got the right profile. You can speak about that later, how it worked at Sporting or I see the big data working at the club. But in the end, the big data is an expertise, but most of all, you have to also know how to build bridges between the guy who's taking care of the big data, the analysts, and the other people at the club. We have to bring everybody to the table and let them know how we can sort it out, that they can get some help. And included the coaching staff with Ruben Amorim and his assistants. It was also in process. It still is right now at the club. So, this big data can bring you an added value, but you have to be careful how to use it.
Yeah.
On my terms, you cannot say, okay, I cannot sign this player because he doesn't run a lot like the other guy runs. If you put it this way, it's you can use it as a benchmarking, and this one of the ways I can tell you later how to use big data at the club, but not more than this.
Yeah, you can. I believe that to finish this part of big data, you can use it or to do the first filter and to check players that have specific characteristics, and you go there and check. And or you can do the opposite. You can identify a player and you want to confirm certain things that you've been watching, for example, and you can use the big data to also to confirm. So I believe it's also this way. We have here a question here from Mario. It's a great question, and the trick, it's hard. So, but it's for you, José. So, what's the biggest challenge for a scout? Working in a low-budget club, or working an impatient club with a high budget?
Mario, everything is interesting. If you look at it at the bright side, there's a challenge in everything, honestly. And I've had some environments, some clubs with zero budget for scouting, zero. When I got to Academica, first time I had to do is I call all the youth coaches, and I told them, look, we have nothing here. So if we have to have better players, you should think about getting into the process. So please help me. So they just need like this blank page, which they will be like filling in with the opponents that will have liked it more, with something about them, and then we'll take care of the process. Also calling some coaches there from youth coaching to actually go to follow up on some players. And that was a challenge, and that worked very, 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 very well. Very well, okay? Because everybody was happy, they were part of the process, and obviously they were getting better players, and the club was getting better results. This is a situation with zero money. And then you have the big clubs. That's just normal having the pressure. But if you can't cope with the pressure of the big club, you cannot work in football. I mean, it comes with the job. It's just normal. You just have to trust your process. And your process, eventually, you have to know how to adjust it, to adapt it to the environment, and call on the right people, trying to explain them what can be done, what is good for, what can be improved for everyone if you get this well done. I've been part of decisions, players with 30 millions. Okay, but I cannot just shake and say, oh, I don't know. You cannot. You have to trust your process. Okay, there are other conditions and other factors, but in the end, it's your job to put your name on the decision. Obviously, it's an informed decision. It's a qualified decision. It comes from a process. But then you have to make a decision. It's not because he be 30 millions or nothing. It's the same responsibility.
That's great. Thank you, Mario, for your question, and thanks, José, for your brilliant answer also. Thanks for that. And it's a challenge. Yeah, everywhere is a challenge to work in football, not only scouting, but scouting you need to make a lot of decisions. Can you give us an example of a player that you identified and you've been directly responsible for his recruitment, and you had to convince the board to sign him, and he was clearly well succeeded? You have any example? For sure you have many, but any that you can mention?
Well, first of all, this is a team job, huh?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, this is obviously if you are the one who has traveled, we've seen the player live, whatever, you like this. Okay, you are responsible for eventually talking about the player, discussing the player, bring the player to the table. Yes, I can mention Gonçalo Plata. Gonçalo Plata.
Yeah.
I think not. Okay, it's not clear his maturity pathways. He's not a performance player. We can talk about that later because you need to understand how to assess a player. Yeah. But in the end, it was like a start at a brand new process at the club. Okay, we're trying to look elsewhere. We needed to understand what we could bring to the club as an added value, and we look at this alternative market like in Ecuador, and we thought that he could bring something different because he was clearly a different player. Okay, this is very interesting. But this needs the other players, I mean the players, the people at the club, to be part of your process, to understand what you're doing, why you are doing. So you have to have the sports director, like Sporting has right now with Hugo Viana, and other people there to understand the process and to support what is being done. Because one decision has to be part of a whole strategy. Okay, it's not a one-off signing that's gonna, change the situation. It has to be part of a vision and well operated, well thought. This with the organization, with everybody part of this process, be sports director with the market, the scouting, getting to know the players, and obviously also the coach to provide his feedback, eventually say yes or no in the last word. This is very important that this all works well. I can mention Plata, I can mention Mateus Nunes, like his name coming up now. That was also a very different situation. Again, because we just got to Sporting. I say me, myself, and Hugo Viana, sports director at that time. So again, we knew the budget for the players eventually, and for the lowest, for the younger setups. Budget was, I wouldn't say it was zero, but the priority when you don't have so many resources is to look to the professional team. Okay, but we thought that this player, even if it was 98, and I would say that it was like a late bloomer, because when you compare this qualification process is different from the ones who eventually were already at the club. I would say, okay, this player is 98, but it looks like a 2000, but 70% of the boxes I would like a central midfielder to have ticket, yes. Then it's the other 30% we have to pay to see. And because it was in a very different and positive situation in the market, because Stril also had a very good job with Pedro Alves, getting the player from a different, a much lower level. So we're in a position to actually build something interesting for everybody. And with not so a big fee, it was a low fee when compared to others. The investment really, it was a good investment because the margin of the risk, it was worth to actually to pay to see, and then trust your own process at the club to qualify the player. And then came the Ruben Amorim, and with all the skills, and you identify the type of player you have there. And again, you need the coach to be your partner so that the process really is successful. And then Ruben and this assistant coaches and this team there, they were able to understand what they have there and to coach him so that he can develop and become a top player.
Yes, and you guys will see now, probably in the summer, and you'll see what José is talking about. So
eventually,
probably it's very, very likely. Let's see. So, and any player that you like, you can mention. For example, sometimes can be frustrating our job as a scout, because that the player is good, you need to try to convince the board. For some reason, they don't want to get him. Sometimes it can be frustrating. I don't know if it was for you for sure. Sometimes, that you identify the player, you thought he was brilliant, and you saw him making great in another club. Have that ever happened to you, or?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you have to learn how to live these frustrations. Yes, it's your job. It's okay. The scouting is there to provide solutions.
Yeah.
Okay, but if the club, whatever you name the people there at the club, if they look at it as a solution, okay, you are there. One of the tasks, I would say the main task of the scouting department, is to provide like a huge pharmacy, and then someone will tell, okay, this is a flu, or this is not a flu. This is an headache, and okay, then we have to adapt. But first of all, we have to provide a solution, and the thing is, everybody is able to see the game in a different way, to assess a player in a different way, for all the reasons. Also because you're talking about human beings. A player can change. He might adapt or not. He might play well one day, not so well another day, whatever. But our job within the scouting is to identify, as an honest and informed assessment, that the player is like this, okay? You might have seen 10 matches, 5 matches, or knowing for a long time. Okay, we just are entitled to identify that this can be a solution. And then the rest of the process there is more able to actually be decisive for the performance of the player. This is the situation.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. Usually I say that scouting, you have to deliver the best ingredients for the chef to cook, you know. And if he decides to cook or not is already not, you know, it's not in your hands. So, but you already did your job. You bring the best quality, the best things you could, obviously with the budget that you have, but you have the solutions. And then it's your part is done. You identified what you had to identify. Then it goes to sports director to sign the player or not. Also the coach to put him playing, because in the end of the day, you can see a very good player. The club can sign him and the coach doesn't put him playing. And can you say that it was unsuccessful from you? No. That you failed? No. So there are many things that can happen actually. So
no, for sure.
Scouting. So
no, also, no. Scouting is not about signing a player with 30 years old. You know, this is not scouting. This is market. This is something completely different now. This is not scouting. The thing about scouting, and I think the scouting has also evolved in this way, is that you have to think as a sport director. Okay, you're looking at the player, but okay, how do I see this player being useful now or in the future? So we have to look at the player also as a sport director and at the same time as a coach, because you better if you can identify his coachability, where he can improve. Because if you are in a market like Portuguese market, which traditionally is a selling market, you need to create value. So when you bring the players, well, most of the players you are bringing need to be coached, need to improve. So if you create value, you can sell for other price. This is dynamics. Only one team can be champion. So all the others have to survive in some way. And one way of creating value, obviously, is after signing a player, coaching, improving, making better. And if the people from the scouting, at the same time, identify with your process, identify his, his level of maturity, his level of global quality, whatever you name it. But if you also can bring this to the table and you say, okay, in sporting, like Ruben, I believe this guy, okay, he's able to do this, but first, he's coachable. His age or year of birth allows us to think that he can improve in some ways and how he can improve. And right now, in the sports science, in the football industry, you are able to improve the players in all dimensions. Obviously, you have this principle of competence for every profession, every industry. But, with the right coaching, if you identify what the player needs, you can improve him. Not only his normal maturity as a person, whatever, but this coachability is very important if the scouting department is able to identify. This is an added value.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, that's true. To understand what the player can also improve. That's a fact. When you cannot bring the final product, you need to bring something that can work on that. Especially.
For example, Mateus Nunes was a really very good example for this.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about it. Yeah.
Because when he came, look at the player, you see this is a raw player there, completely raw. And you think, okay, this guy needs, this problem is biomechanics, because his gravity center was like too high. Okay, we need to work on this, it's physical. But the guy already was, we knew also because his former coach was with us, with Alexandre Santos. He told, no, this guy, his mental traits is stop, because he likes to listen, he learns fast, he brings some positive energy, he's an empathic guy, so he's good structure in the family, so this can work. Even if he's 98, this can work. So, there are all the tools, you can say, okay, this guy is coachable, he can get there.
Yeah.
And then the coach, Ruben Amorim, of course, and his coaching staff, they were brilliant to work him. And there you go from 400,000 euros to, I don't know how much they can get to the player.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but the coach does a very important job also to teach him, because many coaches, they want results and they are not patient. They want players that are ready, but it's part, it's part of the risk also.
This is another problem, that this is also cultural. It depends on the club, what is your vision. and then the profile of the coach you have there. You need a coach who is more than everything, is a partner to the club. He understands the culture, understands the vision, and more than that, he has a know-how to actually identify how we can move to create added value. Okay, of course, if you're exporting, I want to be champion. Okay, but at the same time, we have to think about the other aspects of the game. You need eventually to create added value, also financially. Okay, so this implies a lot of partnerships in the communication and the people willing to work as a team. This is most important.
That's true. That's true for sure. Thanks. We have 2 questions here more, and we are almost finishing. We have here from Daniel, the brilliant chat. Just a second, okay. Brilliant chat, guys. José, how are you as a scout preparing for the next challenge in your career? Interesting question.
Well, no, of course, yeah, of course. Well, right now, it was funny because I decided to actually put on paper my whole process, the concepts, everything, the procedures. And I was willing also to understand the market, to be aware of what the market, the football industry is doing right now, because right now we have the clubs, different levels, different markets. Yeah. You also have these MCOs, with multi-club ownership, which eventually allows you, someone like me with my profile, work in the market, just play chess, because you're not so limited to only one project in hands. And this is very interesting to actually, I was getting people asking me to provide some feedback, and I don't know. Okay. Now I want to understand how's the market moving, and at the same time putting on paper all my process. And this is being like a very, very good time for me. Also thinking my quality time with the family.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for that. Who knows, if we have a course from you on Soccer Hub, it will be brilliant. Let's leave this in the air. So, but you are always welcome, of course, José.
Thank you.
So this is also another question from Svante. Is it possible to outsource scouting to a company that works for many teams? This is one.
Well, there are pros and cons with it. The best pro I see is eventually this company is able to cover different markets at different levels of players with different budgets for the club, for the client. But on the other hand, it's eventually you can have this trust problem. This is all a very tricky issue at the clubs, because you see, okay, this guy is selling because he's promoting the service. It's a paid service, I imagine. But the guy is selling me information, but in the end, he's selling the same information to other clubs. It's normally the business, So this might not be so, it's tricky. It's tricky to have this dubious gray area. And on the other hand, you don't know that process. You are not to them every day, because when you go into the market, you need some concrete details eventually, even better if it's from the coach himself. Okay, if you have the coaching staff, or the coach or assistant, whatever, in the process, if you have a scouting department at the club, you are much more ready, more prepared to go to the market. And then you are building their relationship with trial and error, with constant feedback from the coach and also from the scouting. It's easier to get to a better solution eventually. Okay, so there are pros and cons. I'm just curious how the market will evolve also about this type of service.
Yeah, that's part of what you are doing actually to understand the market. This is also one part, maybe,
Yes.
So, and this last question is also a bit related to that. How do you see scouting in 10 years from now? And do you believe that will become crucial and a recognized position inside football?
Well, it's crucial already, because if right now we have different companies coming up with these studies, with these numbers. A few days ago, CES was coming with the Portuguese market is a big seller, and there's a huge gap between what the players they buy and they sell. So the scouting departments are part of the core business of this industry. If you look at these numbers, this added value, which for Portugal has been millions and millions year after year, the scouting department is part of this success. They are at the very core business. No,
I'll say, if you allow me, I would say that is the only department inside the club that pays itself.
No, for sure. So what I ask is, how come does the scouting class, including in Portugal, are not taking account for the usual consideration for basic things like specific place in the stadium, some type of treatment, because the money they bring to the industry, they should be considered in a different way. You understand? And this may be cultural, but in the end, if you get right now today the reference of the number, like we all like to say, no, because this player costs X and this so. This has become so relevant when you talk about football, that you have to also give value to the people who actually create this added value.
Yeah,
I'm not telling you that we or I at Sporting or Port, whatever, is my merit is 1%, 0.5%. Okay, but it's not nothing. The scouting department as a whole, of course, is playing the part there, also in everything that the club is getting, both in winning trophies, whatever, but most of all also financially. Yeah. So I'd like for the scouting perspective to be more and more respected worldwide, and even more in Portugal.
Yeah, for sure. And so, José, thanks a lot for sharing with us your knowledge. And it's been a great pleasure and honor to have you with us. I could stay here, for more 2 hours, 3 hours, and so for sure, I hope we get the chance to do it again. And okay. You are always welcome. Like I said, the doors are open for you. You bring a lot of knowledge. Thank you. Thanks for that and for sharing. That's very important, because not everybody that have the knowledge is willing to share, and you are. That's brilliant from you. Thanks a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed also as much as me, and share with your friends also this wise advices from someone who is one of the best ones on what he does. Don't also forget to check our courses, including the scouting courses that are with 50% discount, like I said. And thanks for being with us. You want to say something else, José? You want to say?
No, just thank you, Nuno. Thank you, Soccer Hub, for the invitation. I was amazed when I saw also the listing of attendees. I was overwhelmed, to be honest, with the people there. So I'm always happy to bring something up to the table, what useful for debate and to improve the football industry. Just anyway.
For sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys, and see you next time. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.